Hi.
Hey Farah, how are you?
Good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing all right, thanks. So you're a Game of Thrones fan as well?
Oh yeah. I've been waiting for this season to come out like for so long.
For 2 years.
Yeah.
Have you rewatched the last like the last season?
Not all of it. Just the last couple of episodes, just to
Right.
get familiar with what happened. And I have watched those YouTube videos in which they like completely talk about those, whatever happened till now.
Yeah, no, same here. I've so I have HBO and then they've just been
Yeah.
playing all of the last season within this past, I don't know, week or 2 weeks. Or like I think they just like started playing
Uh,
every episode up until now. Like I don't know when they started, maybe a couple weeks ago, and then I've just been watching that the past couple of days. And yeah, I've been binging all these like conspiracy videos on YouTube about like what's gonna happen
oh yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
season.
It's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, to hear other people's take on what's gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if I wasn't doing this course, I probably would have like sat and watched the entire Game of Thrones. So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Let's give everybody else another minute, and if
Sure,
not, we can get started.
sure. I actually had like a few questions regarding the project. So should I like wait for everyone to join or?
Um, what are they? Are they more like admin or like what kind of questions do you have? Because
No,
most of my content today is about the
oh
project.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
No, it's mostly like while I was filling out like the campaign form in the ad manager,
Mhm.
there were a lot of extra stuff that we could do that like we were not asked to do. So I
Mhm.
had questions regarding those, like the A/B testing, and then there was something called the instant experience, which by checking it, the people watching the ad on like the phone will get a bigger uh, you know, display of the ad if they like stop on it or something. That's what they said. Like if
Mm.
I clicked on the question mark next to it, but we weren't like asked to do all those things. So I just was wondering, like, do you guys use those things and how helpful they are?
Yeah, maybe I could touch upon that right now. So in terms of stuff like A/B testing,
Yeah,
it's definitely a good idea when you're actually running a campaign, but given how small
yeah,
the budgets are, I don't think it's gonna be super helpful. The whole campaign is only gonna be $100 a couple days or
yeah,
so, so, um, I would just stick with the main settings, um,
yeah,
in what outlined within the project, and I wouldn't worry too much about some of the other more advanced settings. But I think it's a good idea for you to definitely check it out and understand what they are. So, like the split test functionality, right?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
to be able to understand what that is. So, in future campaigns, when you have more budget, you'll be able to play around with those a bit more.
Yeah. They're like I mean I had like a whole different vision about what I was going to do with the ad. But when
Mhm.
I actually started filling the stuff into the form and saw the various formats that were like gonna be displayed in the campaign, I had to change everything because some of the important stuff was getting cut and then the picture was not looking really good on like maybe a mobile device. So it was like it took me longer than I thought it will take, even though I had like everything that I wanted to put in the ad, I had to change it completely because the display was like different from what I thought it would be.
Yeah, no worries. That's just kind of the first time learning, right? Like you've never done
Yeah,
this before, so moving forward, you'll have a better understanding of
yeah, yeah.
the dimensions, image size. All those are like the very small intricacies of actually running the campaign, and you just have to have experience with that. There's no
Yeah.
other way to really prepare for that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and also the fact that I mean, even though there are so many options, there are not like many options in which you can actually tailor each particular display, like the news feed separately and stuff. It's like the same image and the same text is just, compressed for the other things, and you can't really do anything about it. That's what I didn't like. Like,
Yeah, it's sort of leaving it up to Facebook's algorithm
yeah,
to um, and that's sort of a trend that's going to be more and more apparent, like um, letting the algorithms dictate where and what shows. Um, yeah, that's also very apparent in the Google platforms as well, where you don't really have as much control on where these things are showing, and you kind of have to just trust the platforms to do their job. So
yeah,
the big thing there is just to kind of monitor um, your campaigns and see if you don't have as much, you know, ability to change things on that granular detail, but you should then you need to be extra vigilant on how your campaign is performing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I originally thought that I will use the black hole picture.
Oh yeah.
Like, there were so many out there, the black hole pictures, like modified and stuff by people. I thought I'll use one of those to talk about, a new career and stuff that don't get sucked into the black hole, the career thing.
That's
So,
awesome. That's a
but
great
then,
idea.
but the thing is, when I used that picture, and when they changed it for like different formats, it didn't make sense. Like, it didn't make sense why that picture was there for like Audacity. But
Hmm.
sometimes there was just like Audacity digital marketing and then just the picture. And I thought that's kind of like confusing for people. So I changed the whole thing to just the generic stuff.
Yeah, some of the display formats have more or less context,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
no, that definitely makes sense. Okay, all right, I'm gonna get started. I'm going to turn off my camera and then share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. Cool. So today, I just have a couple things to cover. One is just a check-in on how mentoring is doing, and then I'll do a run over of part one of the Facebook campaign. And Farha, just let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to stop me in between um, if you have any questions that come up.
Sure.
Cool. So the first thing I want to talk about is just kind of a check-in, kind of a temperature check of how things are going for the mentoring side. I don't expect you to have kind of comments right away, Farah, but I'd love to know how you and the other students are feeling about, my support. Any ideas for improvements? My goal is obviously to help you guys have a really successful Udacity experience. Hope you guys can take away as much knowledge as you can, get the most understanding of digital marketing, and feel like you've taken away a lot from this course. So there's a couple of things that I just thought about. Maybe I could shift things up, maybe focus more on the projects, have more availability for one-on-one. I don't know if my slide formats are challenging for people to read. I don't have a lot of information on my slides. I tend to talk through them and just have the key points. People might have feel a certain way about that, and also the communication. So I know that Slack is our main channel of communication. If people are super would prefer to use email, it'd be interesting for people to know. I don't know, like if I could set up like an email group or something where we could duplicate all of the updates that I'm sending through Slack. So um,
Okay.
yeah, I set up a quick Google form. So when I send out the slides, I'll send this link out. And so it's going to be totally anonymous. And it's basically just two questions. One is, what am I doing well that I should keep doing? And then what are areas of improvement or things that I could change and to better support you guys? So
Perfect.
yeah. So that's that, and this is all just for my own personal knowledge. This is not going to Udacity. This is not official. This is just, we're a couple weeks into this Udacity program. Things are coming at everybody really quickly.
Yeah.
I know the projects are. I know I felt this when I was going through the program as well. Like they come really fast, and if you fall behind on one, it kind of feels like they're kind of stacking on top of each other. Then, so if given that, and I know everybody else has, work and full-time jobs, and they've got other things on the go. So just look for different ways to help support you guys.
Yeah.
Cool. So I will talk about the campaign, the Facebook campaign project now. So this is project 3, and overall, you would think that the objective of the campaign or objective of the project is to run a live Facebook campaign and to analyze your results. That's the gist of part 1 and part 2. Your objectives will depend on the marketing challenges that you've chosen. So if you've chosen the B2C kind of sandbox scenario, you're driving downloads, free social media advertising guide.
Mm-hmm.
So that is your objective. You're not trying to sell Udacity necessarily. You're just your goal is to get as many downloads of that guide as possible. If you chose the B2B sandbox scenario, your goal is to drive as many leads for Udacity's corporate training services. And then your objective will change if you've chosen kind of option number 2 and you're chosen to market your own business. And so if people have questions about figuring out what their objective should be for that, you can definitely reach out during one-on-ones or message me on Slack.
Okay.
And overall, the total campaign budget is $100. I know some students have asked me whether that's a daily budget. No, that's $100 split between 3 to 5 days. And typically, I found that budget runs out before your daily maximum will run out. So that $100 can only last you, 2 days usually.
Yeah.
That's good.
There was the thing that in the material for the project, it keeps saying that it's $125, but actually it's 100, so it was confusing over there in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Good call out. And I would say so for part 1. The 2 main things that you should be thinking about when you're planning and setting up the campaign is, who is my target audience? Who is most likely to be interested in either kind of a free social media advertising guide or the services, what they look like, and why would they be interested? So the second part is what you should be thinking about when you're developing your ads, developing the creative, what is going to hook them, and be able to integrate that into your ads. So that's just kind of a high-level overview of the campaign. So obviously there's 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is mainly about planning and setting up the campaign. So it's all about getting access to the Facebook ad account manager, planning your targeting, planning your ads, and then setting the campaign up within Facebook. And that's kind of where your progress should end. With all that, then you could submit the project slides, which will basically tell the project reviewers, here's what I'm planning, here's the sandbox situation that I have, and this is my ads that I'm planning to run. And they'll kind of review that. And once that's approved, then you can move on to part 2, which is actually running the campaign. So clicking, making your campaign live, and then monitoring your campaign, and then analyzing the results.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that when I click confirm, that automatically on the date that I set, the campaign is gonna run, or
yes, that's right. So
okay.
the best.
So if I do get feedback regarding the ad, I can still go and make changes to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so when you in part 1, the inside the project, it tells you to kind of set the start date to
1 week after.
1 week after, and that's really meant to give them time to give you feedback before you start, before your project goes live, and then before your campaign goes live. Sorry, and if you don't receive feedback within then, you can always push your campaign out. You can change the start date.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on the feedback, so that's what I thought.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'll just go over some of the nitty gritty a little bit, and Farhad, I think you already know a lot of these things. So there's kind of two steps in order to really get started with part one of the project. And there are one, request access to the Facebook Ads Manager. And I know that people have experienced some delays in getting access. It may range from 4 to 5 days. And the reason for that is there's a couple of them. One is they can only have a certain amount of students within the account at one time. So they kind of have to boot out some of the old students to allow new students in. And it's a manual process to do that. So expect to wait a couple days. And upon receiving access to the Facebook Ads Manager, you'll also receive an email stating your unique campaign name to use. So I think that's going to be based on your student ID. That's unique to you. But for part one, for project one, where you're just submitting what your plans, you're not actually making the campaign live yet, you can use a placeholder campaign name.
I kind of got the campaign name before I got the Facebook access. So that was,
Yes.
yeah.
That was also interesting for me to hear that
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And so you haven't received the access yet, have you, or have you?
No, I did receive it like last night. So I finished doing all the campaign stuff. But I did get my campaign name way before I got my
Okay.
Facebook email. I don't know why that was, but yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard students that have the opposite, where they've gotten access and they're just waiting for their campaign name. So
Yeah. Yes.
it kind of depends at this point.
Yeah. I was able to like you said, I did my first part by just using some other campaign name than what I got later,
Mhm.
just so I can finish the slides. And
Yeah,
that's fine.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can also go back and edit. So
Yeah.
the campaign, you can go back and edit the name once you receive the unique one before you actually start it. So
Yeah.
that's great. And if people are having issues, so I have included the support email there. I would say do two things. Reach out to them, because they're the ones that are actually going to action your request or look into whether you haven't gotten your access, your campaign name yet, and also keep me in the loop so I can also submit a request on your behalf for them to kind of expedite your issue. So kind of those two things. With those two things, I hope we can work through any challenges that people face.
Yeah, I think one more thing that I thought was if people have used like a different email address for Udacity and a different email address for their Facebook login, then there is an option in the Facebook setting to change the email address of for running your ad manager. And I think if you do that, then you get the access uh, or something like that. I remember somebody posting something on Slack about it, and I
Mhm.
changed that before I actually asked for the access, and everything happened really quickly for me. So I don't know if people are having problem with that, so they might need to look into that.
That's a great
Yeah.
point. And another student actually was in the same scenario. They signed up with Udacity with a different email than what they had for Facebook, and so they changed in Udacity. They actually changed their email.
Okay.
So I think it'll just make things a bit easier if those
Yes.
are the
Yeah.
same, right? I think you're coming
Yeah.
at it from two different ways, but
Yeah.
yeah, just given like a total amount of students, so there's so many students that are trying to finish this project at the same time. It's just going to make it easier if those two emails are the same one.
Yeah.
They're definitely great suggestion. Okay, so we talked about targeting and then the ads, and I just wanted to touch upon maybe some tips on those two areas. So one, people have asked whether you'll be able to target countries other than US, and the answer is yes. You can target any country you want globally, like keeping in mind that Facebook is banned in China, but outside of that, you're pretty fair game. Um, but keep in mind that your budget is small, and you're going to want a highly defined target. Even if you kind of set your targeting for world, you know, the entire world, all countries, um, you only have enough budget to reach a limited amount of people, um, and that's why kind of interests and behaviors are going to be super important, if not more than the demographics. And I would say when you're when you're thinking about your targeting, um, and thinking about who your target personas are, these interests and behaviors might be more important, and they might be more have more of an effect on your success than the actual demographics. And one example is, if I thinking about maybe the B2C example where you're trying to get people to download the social media advertising guide, selecting interests where, if you say, if you find people that are interested in social media already, that might be a better determinative whether they'll be likely to download than being in a younger demographic compared to an older demographic per se.
Yeah.
So any questions about that, Farah?
Yeah, I had a question. Like,
Mhm,
when you enter in your schedule for the ad,
mhm,
it also provides an option for selecting the time,
mhm.
but it's just like the start and the end time for that. Um, it, I mean, in real time things, do you like, are you able to set time specifically for each campaign to run in different countries, or do you need to like come up with two separate campaigns for two separate countries, because the time thing is like weird, right?
Yeah, I think you would have two different ad sets in that example, um,
Okay.
and yeah, and it definitely in a real live other campaigns. That's something that people do in terms of, um, say sometimes your ads might be more relevant, or like kind of time sensitive. Um,
Yeah.
so like just in my like from my work experience, we have a healthcare app, and so one of the benefits is being able to see a doctor outside of kind of regular um, office, like regular
Mhm.
kind of doctor hours, kind of during the day. And so we'd want to run some of those specific ads later in the, like kind of in the evening, where it kind of is more relevant. That message is more relevant for people at that time. So
Okay.
definitely, that's used pretty often, I would say, um,
Yeah, I
in those
think that's
situations.
that's the mistake that I did. Like, I targeted like two places that are like of different time zones,
Hmm.
and but the option for this particular project was just like the start time and the end time, and there was no like, I couldn't customize that. So I don't know if I'm gonna go back and change it, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you also don't need to set it, right? You could just
Yeah.
set it to optimize, um, like let Facebook optimize by
Yeah.
time of day.
Yeah.
So that's probably what most students are going to do.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, and then the ads. So given that everybody is working with the same product and same landing page, like same offer, I would say the biggest impact on people's success are going to be the images. That's probably the kind of the biggest factor in determining your campaign success. Um, Usually, the creative and like the images um, are, because that's what people see the most. That's what kind of stops people in their tracks when they're scrolling. How well your kind of creative resonates, and then they would look at your headline and your copy after that. So, if I were to focus more of my time, I would definitely seek out creative that, spend more time looking at the images if you can,
Yeah.
um, in terms of trying to optimize on different elements of your ads. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, did you have a question there, Far?
No, no, that's the thing that took the longest, because to get an image that like resonates with the message and also is not similar to what I already see like in Audacity ads, and plus that fits every format was like really challenging.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then Facebook also discourages text-heavy images as well. So
Mhm.
um, if you have a lot of text within your images, they could potentially not run. So Facebook could potentially bar them from running, as it's against kind of their guidelines. Um, so that's just one thing to be aware of. And then the other is sort of to do with targeting as well, but just to think about what your um, target persona is thinking and feeling. This kind of goes back to the target persona and the empathy map. Really put yourself in your target persona's shoes and think about if they're going scrolling through the Facebook, scrolling through the Instagram, um, what would what kind of message would hook them? What would make them stop in their tracks and be interested in um, your ad and the offer that you're trying to sell?
Yeah.
And then another kind of way to, and I think this is kind of goes to best practice as well. So usually when you're building out a campaign, you're thinking about the landing page and all your ads and the whole experience should have a consistent look and feel. And so given that your landing page is already built and created, um, it'd be great. I think it'd be helpful for you guys to look at that first, to see what the landing page says and make sure that your ads are tying in well with the landing page, and so people aren't kind of looking and seeing one thing from the ads, and then once they're at the landing page, kind of looks totally different, and the messaging is totally different as well. So that's just one thing to be aware of, and it's probably best practice as well, um, to take into any other campaigns that you guys work on.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep. Um, and then these two other ones are kind of about inspiration, and one is just to think about the types of ads that you've clicked on in the past and why they hooked you, what made you click in the first place. Um, and the second one is to honestly to look at other students' campaigns to see what other students have done. What's interesting is that we have all these, it's almost like we have thousands of iterations of the same experiment going on. All these students are kind of trying to do the same thing. So it's really I found it interesting to just look at other people campaigns, how they um, look at things like how they chose to message the benefits of either like the social media guide or um, the training services, how they positioned it, how they chose to call it the different benefits, because students will do it at different ways. Um, yeah, so I just found that interesting. And if you have time, definitely do that.
Where do you see these? Like, and they say that you can see it on the students' board or something. Where is that? Like, there was no link or anything to go and see it. Is there?
Once you get access to the Udacity ad account, you can actually look at other. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So
okay,
look at other
got
people's
it.
live campaigns. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Cool. So and then just moving on to actually running the campaign. Um, Obviously, I kind of mentioned this before, but don't run the campaign until your part one project has been approved, and then once your campaign is started, make sure to monitor it every day because there are errors that can occur. Um, you, sometimes your ads might get flagged for whatever reason, so it's just best practice to um, monitor it continuously. And we don't have a lot of time or budget within these campaigns, so if you're down for a little bit, um, that can really hurt you in terms of your kind of results. And when you actually start, when your campaign is officially starts and goes live, it can take a bit of time for your campaign to start running. At first, you'll probably see that your ads are in pending status, and so that's just kind of Facebook's algorithms kind of learning about what your campaign is, looking at your ads and seeing if they're and basically approving your ads as well. So I don't think it's actually done manually; it's done through an algorithm, but it'll kind of determine whether your ads are going to be relevant and or crosses any their guidelines. So just be aware that it might not run right away. Yeah. And then sort of like what I said before, I think if you have the bandwidth, it's since you won't have a ton of data points given the amount of budget and time you have, but you have access to all these other students' campaigns, and so it's interesting, and you should start think when you're looking at other people's campaigns, think about why or why not they saw success, um, because of those, I think it's a really great opportunity to see different approaches, and so I think that'll provide a lot of great learnings to just analyze a bunch of other campaigns and compare it to how yours did.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's it from a project perspective. Did you have any other questions, Farha?
No, I think like I covered all the questions that I had.
Okay, perfect. Then just talk about the upcoming schedule. So we got next week, so I believe that's a Tuesday, April 23rd, is when the part 2 of the Facebook campaign project is due. So that's after running the project, actually analyzing the results. I will have my availabilities this week, so Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I know it's kind of Easter weekend, so I've kind of left that free, and I will try to set up a webinar for Friday. The time is still TBD. It'll probably be around maybe 11 Pacific time. But I will let people know as soon as I figure that out, which should probably be in the next day or so.
Perfect.
Awesome. Any other final comments or questions from your side, Farha?
No, I think I'm good, like, for now, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, definitely let me know if you have any questions, and then I'll send out the recording of this and the project slides, which will include a couple links I've included in here as well. Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Well, thanks for taking the time to join me, Farha.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll chat with you later about what you think about the first episode of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Have a good one.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.